Hey everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're here to talk about episode 2 of Tower of God season 2. I don't know about you guys, but of all the things I was expecting to see in the second season, one of those was not essentially to have Baam have a whole bunch of people begging and pleading him to take them along on the journey with him, only to have him go, nah, you all suck and you're worthless, and basically go, I'm going by myself. Although, given the history that he actually has with working with other people, it doesn't entirely surprise me that he would feel that way. I mean, he got betrayed big time, and not only did he actually get betrayed, but in that happening to him and all of the other connections and meaningful relationships he had with people in season 1, he also has all of the trauma of potentially not knowing what happened to those people and having lost them and all the lost connections and everything else. It's very understandable why somebody like that wouldn't want to be dealing with people and wouldn't want to actually get mixed up in the essentially tower politic of having a team and knowing that inevitably you are going to be the downfall of those people or they are going to be the downfall of you. Better to work alone and have nothing and no one but yourself to blame. This is also likely something that he has been trained in through his time with Fug. He's probably been taught to be a lone assassin, and also his people skills and overall approachability and stuff are way different than what they were in season 1, so being some form of a team player and interacting with people is probably not so much a strong suit for him now as it was then. They either are something that are going to get in his way or that are going to potentially cost him down the road. So he's just like, no thanks, I got this. Also, with regard to some of the smaller and more fragile characters, like the little girl, it's also very possible that Baam is the kind of person, at least insofar as they are concerned, where he probably doesn't want to pick them because he realizes that as he climbs the tower, it's only going to grow more and more dangerous, and the emotional attachment that he could form toward them, coupled with that danger, would just continue to be more and more of a detriment. Better for them to stop here and now than to actually move forward and be placed in further and greater peril. But with all of that said, it's absolutely no surprise that we see Ja Wangnan actually get on his knees and beg and plead and offer to bark like a dog if he will be taken. Because what Baam probably doesn't realize and may or may not care about, I mean, he is a very different person here than what we saw in season 1, is the reality that we as viewers know about Ja Wangnan's actual situation, which is that he is going to become an organ donor if he doesn't actually succeed in moving forward. So for him, practically any situation would be better than the situation that he faces if he fails here and now. And the thing that we're also seeing with some of these other characters who come forward and start giving their story on why they want to climb the tower and everything is that one of the things I'm really noticing as a theme here in this episode and possibly throughout the show is that one of the most fundamental aspects of the tower is how it strips away family and friendship and all senses of loyalty or compassion. I mean, in the first season, we learned about the reality that the princesses of Jihad are not supposed to have children and that it's punishable by death. And that, of course, is to ensure that the lineage of Jihad is solely of his own choosing, but it also separates and isolates each of them from each other and from any source of family, making them more vulnerable and more able to be manipulated into doing the things he would hypothetically want. In this episode, one of the recurring themes that we see for a lot of the characters, especially the more fragile or basically weaker characters, is that one of the reasons a lot of them want to climb the tower is to find some form of lost loved one. Whether it's somebody who moved further ahead and that they've been separated from in this regulars climbing situation, or whether it is possibly to get to the top of the tower and wish to see someone that has been left behind, somebody who has fallen and perished, which is what I think the goal of the little girl is, which is insane. The best thing she could hypothetically be doing would be living for her parents, but She's just a tiny little girl and she's put herself in this situation. And it's insane that they let kids do this. It's absolutely twisted. Her and that little ramen boy, that's just a hot freaking mess. But I mean, that's just my 2 cents, and they're there for emotion. So what you gonna do? It's storytelling. The last thing in regard to this that I want to highlight, of course, is Baam's own personal experience with it through Rachel. Rachel was the one and only person in the entire world that Baam actually cared about. She was his light. She was his stars. And the moment she stepped inside of this tower, first by deceiving him to be able to go in there to begin with, and second by accepting the offer to kill him so that she could climb the tower herself, and ultimately betraying him and pushing him off of the bridge, we see how it has destroyed their own family, whether it was actually biological or whether it was found. They still had each other's backs. They were still connected. And this tower and the objectives and the emotions of greed and envy and everything that it brings out in people still ended up ruining that. And I mean, that's terrible. I am curious about what that ring that Ja Wangnan actually had is. And it was definitely interesting seeing Baam come into the room and be like, hey, you dropped this. And I mean, Ja Wangnan looked like he was gonna crap himself. Because first off, I mean, I think there's definitely something going on with that ring. I mean, it was referenced to somehow in relation to jihad. I wonder what the connection there is. Is there something we don't know about Ja Wangnan, or how he got a hold of that ring in general? Because that's definitely very strange. And I wonder whether his concern was that Baam was going to attack him in some way, because Baam's goal obviously is to destroy jihad, and maybe Ja Wangnan thought that there was some way that the ring was going to be perceived as some connection to jihad, or whether he is dealing with some kind of even slight PTSD type experience, and he was remembering basically being like 1 second away from being karate chopped in the throat by Baam in the first episode, which would be completely understandable because we see his reaction to seeing the girl with the fire powers that burned him in episode 1, and he was absolutely crapping bullets over that one. So it seems likely that he's somebody who's definitely getting reaction to the things that happen to him, and that those things are sticking with him. It seems to me that in this episode and in this season of the show, that Ja Wangnan is going to be our eyes as the viewer, and that Baam has evolved past being able to do that because his personality and his overall values have been changed so drastically. So it will be interesting to see exactly how that will continue and what we will find out, and how much of a difference this difference in central character point of view will actually make. I do want to talk briefly about a few of the new characters that we saw. We didn't get a ton of information on them, but some of them definitely stood out. It was interesting that the shadow broker kind of person who had made the deals and everything for Ja Wangnan is actually a contestant. And it was interesting learning about the asshole prince who has all the money and who is basically buying his way through the floors, and the reality that he seems to think, for whatever reason, that he has ownership over Flamethrower Chick. I think that each of these characters are potentially going to be important. I think that Prince and the Flamethrower girl, I think her name was Yiwa or something, are going to be much more important than the shadow brokery kind of loan shark kind of guy. But I definitely think they're going to end up being people who are added into the mix and who are going to cause mischief for our characters in the future. I think we're likely to also get some of the softer characters. I think the little girl is probably going to advance. The little ramen boy will probably move forward potentially. We'll see. Maybe the bigger guy with the red, who has the red hand he can summon, he seems likely. But overall, it's going to be anyone's guess who actually will move forward, if anyone. I mean, this all assumes that Baam loses that test, which I think is likely from a storytelling point of view, but which they definitely don't want us to believe is going to happen based on the numbers. So we'll have to see how that goes. One other thing I will say is that with his disguise name being Viole, And the fact that the flamethrower girl actually mistook him from a woman and was confused when he started walking into the man's bathroom. That did get a chuckle out of me. That was actually really fun. I wonder if it's a play on the name Viola, which is the woman from Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. So that could be possible and could be kind of a nod or something. I don't know. You never know when you're looking at something from one country and then referencing something from another country. It's probably more so me and my own background making that connection, but it was still something I found amusing. Last thing I will say is that it is challenging seeing the difference in Baam's personality, because there is definitely a lot more detachment between us and him in this season than there was in the first season, which is one of the reasons why, at least for now, I'm saying that Ja Wangnan is definitely more so the central character that we're following as far as a point of view, and that is definitely more so the character that we as regular people are probably going to connect with. It will be interesting to see more of what has actually transpired and what has caused Baam's change of character, and to see just how that will actually be impacted by having people around him going forward, as I would presume we're likely going to see. But overall, I'm very happy with the second episode. I thought that it was pretty solid. I was definitely entertained. I like some of the new characters that we have had introduced to us, whether in a genuine I like them sense or in a love to hate sense. I think that both of these have been covered nicely, and I think that it's going to make for an interesting continuation to the season. But I'd love to know what you guys think, so drop a comment below and let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. See you later. Bye!